John Ray, son of Aubrey. They're currently in from 109 in the health center.
Wow.
That
was absolutely awesome.
30.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Get a sense
and welcome everyone. Welcome to our program. I'm going to ask everyone if you could please mute yourselves so that we can all hear.
I wanted to get a sense of what.
There we go. Thank you all for being here. John, that was spectacular. Thank you so much. What a way to start our day. On behalf of Tracy Home Care, I'd like to welcome all of you to this program today. We're very excited to have you here, and we're extremely excited to have Dr. John C. Webb with us. Just wanted to make sure that you all knew that we'll have an opportunity to talk a little later on questions and answers at the end of the program. My name's Chris Chakowski, and on behalf of Tracy Home Care, I'm moderating today's program. But before I get started, I'd like to welcome Barbara Tracy. Barbara Tracy is the president and co-founder of Tracy Home Care. And Barbara wanted to say a few words before we get started with the program. Barbara? Oh, Barbara, you'll have to unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself?
For doing it.
Thank you.
I'm at the perfect place, the perfect day. Okay. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Dr. John Webb, for your amazing music. What a lovely way to start the day. Before we get started, I would like to share some important news. Tracy Home Care's 40th anniversary. As many of you know, we're a family-owned agency that was operating since 1974. We have served 20,000 families in the North Shore and Greater Chicagoland. I'm so grateful to have such a dedicated team of caregivers who have worked with us for decades and have decades of experience. Our motto has always been Family Matters. Today, our speaker feels the same way.
Well, isn't that true? So true. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you for being such a pioneer in the industry.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, as Barbara mentioned, our speaker today walks the talk in every way when it comes to family values. Dr. John C. Webb is a university professor. He's also a musician, as we all just heard, and a caregiver. Dr. Webb's book on practicing happiness was nearly complete, and he was also teaching a university course on the same subject when his wife's accident occurred. In his book, Dr. Webb shares insights about his wife, Tony, who sustained a traumatic brain injury. She has little recall of her past, but Tony calls herself the blue-nosed gopher and cheerfully teaches us how to make present moments meaningful. I know that Tony's in the audience as well. John, did you want to give us a chance to wave and say hi to Tony? Hey, Tony, thank you for being here. We're glad that you're here today. John, I just noticed that you're muted, so you'll have to unmute yourself as well.
There you go.
Terrific, terrific.
Did the music come out okay though?
It did. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Yeah, it was great. Thank you. One of the things that really struck me when I was speaking with John, he reminded me that, you know, being a musician, when you really want to be good at anything, John said, you have to practice. So why not practice and embrace happiness on a daily basis? Wow, that really caught my attention. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John C. Webb as he helps us understand how to practice happiness now. Welcome, John.
Well, thank you all, and I want to thank Tracy Home Care for sponsoring this event, Barbara and Chris and everyone, the whole team at Tracy. Also, Robert Browning of Success Solutions actually kind of pioneered this idea of working with Tracy and doing the presentation. And Bob has been a neighbor of mine in Whitewater, Wisconsin, a long time ago. And we've kind of known each other over 30 years. So thank you, Bob, for that. The song that I played, by the way, was called My One and Only Love, and I dedicated that to Tony, my sweetie over here. We've been together for 48 years now, and her accident was in 2008, so I've been caregiving just about 14 years now. And so as I don't try to define myself at all, but yeah, I'm a musician and a retired professor, and I retired early actually to become what I am now. Most of all is a caregiver. So I'd like to start now by delving into why are we caregivers and how can we make our caregiving life a joyous one. Again, this comes from not being a trained caregiver, but someone who kind of fell into it. But if you are a caregiver, and hopefully you're doing this because you love the field, or maybe you're doing it because you wanted to be a member of the Forbes billionaire list, but more likely you love what you do, and that is what I wish for all of you that are in that role. However, sometimes a planned life of caregiving was not in the picture, and some of us are thrown into that due to circumstances. So one of the things is maybe something happened to a loved one or a family or a friend, and all of a sudden you're a caregiver. Now, when you're in that situation, obviously, if you can hire a qualified caregiver, by all means do so. I'm speaking to through a company that has many qualified, fantastic caregivers. And if you go to their website, you'll see a number of activities that their caregivers do with their clients. And it's fantastic to say, man, that's just fantastic. I would love to have that. Maybe not everyone can have a caregiver come to the home, and you may be the person that is the caregiver. So there's a process to go through if you are suddenly thrust into that. And it might surprise you, but the first thing when you realize you're going to be caregiving for a loved one, all of a sudden, is the forgiveness. Because you're in a new situation, and it's very important if you're going to be a good caregiver is to take a moment. I do this in my book, and I'll only show this one time. It looks like this. It's kind of a thick book, but there's a lot of steps that you can work on toward your happiness. And the whole idea is that one of the steps is a forgiveness step. And this is probably, I don't know if I should have done this, but the hardest one maybe of all of the practicing ones you can do. Take a few moments in your quiet time, maybe in the morning, take a moment and forgive everyone, every person that's ever done anything to you, any transgression, any problem. Take a time and let it go. what you're doing is you're shedding excess baggage that can actually ruin your present. Now, this is hard. This is going to take maybe days, weeks, months, maybe even years, because you don't know you've forgiven someone unless that anger or feeling or emotion is completely gone when you think of it. So after you spend some time, a couple of minutes forgiving people, then you can also take a moment to forgive circumstances. Things happen to you. You were in situations that were difficult. You have to forgive that too. Take a moment and forgive every circumstance that was ever difficult for you to do. And that takes a little while too. And last but not least, forgive yourself. Yes, I've done all kinds of stuff. I've done bad things. And you have to let yourself go. You cannot hang on to the baggage of your past. And that's one of the beautiful things about my wife with her brain injury, is that she doesn't have a past necessarily to bring back, or a negative past to bring into it. So forgiving. And so that once you can do that, you'll be able to move much more freely through your life and not being weighed down with a giant sack of garbage carrying around of all of the things that have happened to you. Now, another thing about the caregiving situation is to find the perfect caregiver. Well, maybe if you can hire someone, great. But now you're a caregiver. What do I need to do? How can I be the best caregiver I can be? Take a moment again and close your eyes, relax a minute, and fast forward to the very end of your life. Let's just say that you're about ready to transition to whatever happens next when you pass away. You're no longer able to eat or care for yourself, use the restroom, get around unassisted. You absolutely need care, or even to get out of bed. Here comes your caregiver. What is he or she like? Oh, good looking. Okay, you can do that. Good looking is good. But what else? What would you like that caregiver to be like when they take care of you? Because after all, you're pretty sick. You might get cranky. You might be dropping things. You might have accidents or forget lots of things. And so what else you want that caregiver? How would you want that caregiver to work with you? Well, the answer then is just Caregiving 101. If you describe all of the things that the caregiver would do for you in that situation, you've just defined yourself. Congratulations. You now are back at the present time, and you are going to do all of those things for your loved one that someone would do for you if you were in that situation. So that's the fantastic thing, is that it does no good to help others if you're chastising yourself, or have all of this past stuff to bring in. Simply let it go and caregive with a clear mind. Now, thoughts. I like to deal with the power of thought, because we have so much information on the power of technology these days, but what about the power of our thoughts? Sometimes I don't think enough attention is given to the importance of how our thoughts will create the best possible caregiving atmosphere. Now, caregiving is not full of kudos and praises and lavish praises and things like that. And that was an adjustment for me, because I came from a kudos-oriented profession. Oh, Dr. Webb, that was a marvelous lecture. Oh, maybe not, but oh, that performance, that concert you played, it was just wonderful. And the band you play with, oh my goodness, lavish praise. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was always getting lots of compliments in my profession. Now, how about caregiving? How about butt wiping? Oh, that was the best butt wiping ever. Or changing sheets. Oh, the way you changed those sheets was fantastic. And breakfast, the best bowl of cream of wheat I've ever had. Thank you, caregiver. And can I have another pimento loaf sandwich for lunch? So, you're not going to get the praise usually as a caregiver like many professions get. So that helps you. I ask you to remember why it is you're doing what you do. On top of no praise, you're often going to be criticized sometimes, maybe by your loved one or your client or the person you're working with. Well, I have to get up now, or you call that dinner. I'm not in the Army. What's all these pills for? Why don't you take them back to the cartel? Oh my goodness, you know, complaints that you're going to get, you're going to have to let them bounce off of you like a bath bubble. And as a caregiver, not only are we not going to get praise, but we're going to make some mistakes. We're going to make lots of mistakes. Don't we all? And when you do, you have to realize everything is always okay, even if it doesn't seem to be. Did you make a mistake on your job? It's okay. Even if it's a bad one, learn why the mistake happened and vow not to repeat it. I like to say anyone can make a mistake, only dummy makes it twice. So you learn from your mistakes and you move on. I'm reminded of a senior softball game I played. An easy fly ball to Webb in right field. He under it and it hits him in the face. And the Cubs lose. Cubs lose. Well, I learned something as I put a mask on, not for COVID, but to hide my embarrassment. Went in, we lost the game, and I learned something. Don't forget your sunglasses next time. But the challenge of that, and I mention it, is because you have to move on when you make a mistake. You have to leave it behind and just forget about it and just learn from it and leave it, not let it ruin your day or your life. As a caregiver, I like to try to bring honor to what I do every day, no matter what the task is. Remember that ideal caregiver that you have in your mind. Yes, O Universe, it is an honor to be a caregiver. It is an honor to wipe butts. And actually, I'm being sincere here. But then sometimes you're doing that, you're doing really well with that, and then your computer crashes and you didn't save the last hour of your work, or ding, ding, yeah, I've got a caregiver, but oh, what about, oh, the toilet overflowed and flowing onto the carpet. Oh no, the stove broke. Things happen in your life and you still have to be the caregiver you were, whether something was happening in your personal life or not. You bring the same honor to caregiving no matter what has been happening in your personal life. One of the awesome things about Tony over here is that when I take her to the restroom or fix food, she always thanks me. I mean, I'm so blessed here. And so I don't know if everybody gets that, but you know, we're going to have bad days. I'm sorry. Did you have a bad morning? Did you have an argument with your significant other, or your pants too tight? I'm sorry to hear that. Leave those problems behind and go be a fantastic care partner right now. Well, in my book now, I go into time management, and it's not what you might think. I know there's so many books and information about the time management and how to manage your schedule and doing all of those things. Much good advice, of course. And the time management that I'm talking about is not just for your caregiving life, but also for your time that you'll have when you're not caregiving. You may be caregiving a good chunk of your time during the day, but then there'll be some times when you have to get things done yourself. So what about time management for you? Well, but I have lots to do. The dishes need to be done. The house is a mess. I need to do the washing. I've got 12 projects and stop. You don't have enough time to get everything done. Therefore, do not attempt to get everything done, because if you do, I guarantee your happiness is going to take a nosedive. So what do? I have all of these things to do, Dr. Webb. I mean, how am I supposed to get it all done? Well, the answer is one word: prioritize. What is the most important thing that you have to do right now? That's what you do. Don't be doing the dishes if you have to be working on an important project. So I'm reminded of a story that my wife and I were involved in Wisconsin when we lived there with an organization called the Mounds Powwow. And every year the committee would put on a major powwow, Native American powwow in Whitewater. And we would have people come down. The Native Americans would come down from Minnesota and Canada and northern Wisconsin, and all these drum groups and dancers, and there would be a feast. There was a sacred fire, and the whole event took an entire year to prepare. So we've been preparing for this for a year. And I remember it's the first powwow that I had ever been to where we were part of the organizers of it. The grand entry is at 1 o'clock on a Saturday. And I'm thinking, okay, great, no problem. Well, it's about 10 to 1, and I notice, nothing looks anywhere near ready. Dancers are around, people are there putting on their outfits, and then 1 o'clock, 1:05, 1:10, people start saying, hey, wasn't the grand entry supposed to start right at 1 o'clock? And I didn't have the answer, of course, at that time. So what I learned was, as I watched the grand entry finally come together about 1:40, and you might think, wow, that's 40 minutes late. But hear me out, because dancers had come down, they'd driven 6 or 7 hours. They're putting on their outfit. Every item is sacred to them. They're saying their prayers at the sacred fire. The drum groups are preparing. They're taking the honey and lemon for their throats and everything like that. They took their time to get ready, but when they got ready, they were spiritually ready. They didn't, throw their outfit on, rush into the circle to be on time. They did it at the needed to do it. And so they did things in the order of what needed to be done. And the important thing was to start with a good feeling, So that's what really, really counted. So when things felt good, then that's what we have. So anyway, the root of much unhappiness then is oftentimes when we're doing something and it's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're doing it at the wrong time. So again, by taking the time to do what's most important and doing it well, the old Native American idea was you start when you're ready and you finish when you're done. And that's the time schedule. And that was a whole brain shaking thought for me. So I was an expert, I think, of doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, contrary to the Dr. John song, the right place at the wrong time. I was doing the wrong thing or the right thing that maybe at the wrong time. So if you do the right thing at the right time, your energy and your happiness is going to soar like an eagle. Now, I want to go into energy a little bit here. And you have to have energy. And time management, the way you manage your time, has everything to do with the energy that you have as well. Because if you're managing your time well, you're going to have more energy to get things done. So anyway, obviously you want to have good health. You want to treat your body like a temple. You want to eat well. You want to exercise and get enough sleep and all of those things. My body, I do the best I can. I might have an occasional Mai Tai waiting for me in the back of the temple there, but you get the drift. And assuming that our health is doing well and we're being reasonably good boys and girls, then it becomes all about prioritizing where we spend our energy and how much energy we expend for whatever it is that we're doing. So what is an energy vampire? I had to do that. Energy vampire could be a number of things. First of all, an energy vampire can be a person who, unbeknownst to them and maybe even to you, you ever been around someone where after you were around them a while, they just kind of drain your energy? And it's oftentimes not someone you don't like. It's oftentimes a close friend or a family member, and you're around them, and after a while, you just feel the energy kind of going downhill, and you don't know why. But your energy is literally being sucked dry by people, and maybe it's their behavior or something. You're spending too long at one thing. It could be, it's tricky because, a lot of times those people are those ones that you love the most. But an energy vampire can be a person who is draining your energy. But there's another one. There's a circumstance or a situation that can drain your energy as well. So you can have maybe it's your commute to work and your traffic jam. You may have bad weather, anything that can happen in the household. Maybe you have a leaky roof or something that distracts from your normal routine. situations can bring an energy drain to you if you allow it. So the last energy vampire I'll save to the end, going back to just the energy conservation here. Caregivers are usually the least selfish people on the planet. They give of themselves all day long. And many caregivers are an empath. An empath is the ability to sense or feel what people feel and understand where they're coming from. And that's important, being able to put someone in someone else's shoes. But be careful, because when you're able to do that, you have to preserve enough of your own energy so you don't let someone else's illness or deficiency of any kind to bleed the energy you need to get through the day. So it's great to be an empath. It's great to feel what others are feeling, but you have to allow it not to drain your own energy. It's kind of like watching the news. There's many problems in the world. You can't solve all of them, but if you're not careful, even 10 minutes of watching the nightly news can drain your energy and make you feel like you need a nap. So I guess the important thing is to notice when your energy is going down and when it's depleting. And so you can feel it and go, oh my goodness, I'm getting tired. You're recognizing that before it's too late. And then when you feel that happening, you're going to have to make a change of some sort. That might be a diversion away from what's draining energy, if possible. Maybe music can help. You may have to leave the space of where that energy is being drained. There's many possibilities, but the important thing today would be to realize when you're losing the energy, what's causing it, and then do everything you can to change that situation. If you're caught in traffic all the time and it's bothering you, maybe you can take a bus and read a book, or you work from home more. There's creative solutions to a lot of the energy draining problems that you might have. Well, who's the scariest energy vampire? Okay, here's an example. So I have a presentation I want to get done. I'm not talking about this one, by the way. I've got to do a presentation for school, you know, and so I'm going to start working on it, and it's early in the evening, but a friend stops by and, we chat for 30 minutes, and then I get a call on the cell phone, and I get another call, and I get a few more calls that evening. That's another 30 minutes worth. So, but I'm getting hungry. I'm going to have to fix some dinner. So, but I don't have everything I need for my dinner. So I'm going to run to the store and get it. To run to the store, go shopping, get the stuff, fix the dinner, eat it. Well, I've got to do the dishes too. Well, there's 90 minutes to 2 hours right there. Oh, it's trash night. I've got to take the trash out. And then I say hi to a neighbor. We talk for 10 minutes, and I come back in. I'm going to start now. Oh, but the Cubs are on TV. Oh, it looks like a good game. Now, I'm not going to watch it. I'm just going to peek at it now and then, but it's a really good game, and it's distracting me. I spend maybe 30 minutes looking in on it off and on. And then, I'm doing a presentation tomorrow. I've got to do the laundry. So I throw the wash in, and there's another 15 minutes. And here comes a text. I better answer that. Here comes emails. I better answer that. And it's getting later and later and later. Oh, I've got to get going. I've got to play some music to get me going. So I'll put some music on, but I have to find the right music. There's another 15 minutes. Now it's almost midnight, and I haven't done anything. So I make coffee. And as you know, my presentation for tomorrow is kind of in deep trouble. So the hidden part of this is obviously web. You just wasted a bunch of time. You should have just gone straight to the presentation, but don't we all give in to distractions? At work even, you're doing some work, you're doing what's important, and this is time away from your caregiving maybe. You have a little time to yourself, and sure enough, emails come in, phone calls come in, and pretty soon what you wanted to get done is out the window. Well, there's another hidden part behind this whole thing, and that is why the procrastination. Well, I just allowed distractions, of course, so why? Well, is it something you don't want to do? Well, yeah, maybe I didn't want to do that presentation. Okay, why didn't you want to do it? Well, because yada, yada, yada. Well, why do you need to keep doing what you don't want to do? Are you spending a lot of time doing what you don't want to do? And that's why you're procrastinating. See, I really don't think that there's necessarily lazy people out there. Oh, he or she's lazy. They just haven't been put in touch with what they really want to do, what lights their fire. So if you find yourself procrastinating, losing your energy and losing your time by allowing distractions to come in for what you have to get done, perhaps you're letting that happen for a reason. So take a good look and make sure that the activities you're spending the most time on are what sends you to the moon. What makes your clock tick, so to speak. If not, then it may be time to make some changes. So the ultimate time management is do what's important and do it right away, and kind of measure what's distracting, turn off the cell phone and do all of those things. So, okay, now there's a little green monster up there. I see Chris has put him up, and that is your ego. Yes, why is it a green monster? Well, I'm not talking about, when I mention ego in my book, I'm not talking about ego such as your confidence, because as caregiver and people and whatever we do, we want to be confident with what we're doing. I'm talking about the ego's need for control. Don't we want everything to go the way we want them to do during that day? We want everything in our caregiving life to go smoothly. We want, your meal preparations, everything you're doing to go smoothly. Sometimes it doesn't. And so then how angry are we going to get when things don't go our way, when we're not getting what we want? There's a great story. It's a Twilight Zone episode, actually. And in this Twilight Zone episode, there's a very, very bad man. He's a crook. And his name is Mr. Valentine, of all things. It's kind of a funny name for somebody he's out robbing banks and robbing stores. Well, he's doing an armed robbery, and sure enough, he gets in a big shootout with police. Bang, he gets hit. He blacks out, and he wakes up in this beautiful penthouse apartment. I mean, most lavish apartment you can possibly imagine. Well, where am I? And then the very nicely dressed man in a full tux with tails answers, and it's actually Sebastian Cabot, the actor, because this was back in the 60s, and he says, "Oh, hello, Mr. Valentine, what can I get for you?" And he says, "Well, where am I?" "Well, you're in your new home." "Well, great. Well, and what can I get for you?" "Well, anything you want, sir." So he says, "Well, how about a steak dinner?" Poof, beautiful steak dinner, and a glass of the finest wine. Sure. So he has this wonderful dinner and says, "Well, what else?" "Well, gee, how about some dames?" This was the 60s. So boom, 3 beautiful women come, there they are, keeping him company. And he's got the women and the wine, and then music. And then, "Well, I want to go out on the town." "Well, certainly." So he goes out on the town, has a great time. And he says, "Well, I want to gamble." So he goes to gamble, and he wins the jackpot. He keeps winning the jackpot. Everything he touches, he wins. He gets everything he wants. He comes home, and then a day after day, this goes on, And he starts getting a little bored. He says, "Well, what would you like, Mr. Valentine?" "Well, I want to rob a bank." "Yes, Mr. Valentine, which bank would you like to rob?" "Well, I'll take the First Saving Loan over here." "Okay, great." So he robs the bank. He gets all the money. He comes home. He has all the loot, and everybody's happy. He's winning more jackpots. "Well, I want to rob more banks." He robs more banks. And then finally, he starts getting bored with it. He says, well, what's the matter, Mr. Valentine?" "Well, I want a chance of getting caught." "Well, we can arrange for that. We can arrange for a 30% chance of you getting caught." "Well, I don't want to know. I'm so bored with this. If this is heaven, I want out." And Sebastian Cabot says, "Who said this was heaven, Mr. Valentine?" So he got everything he wanted all of the time, and he was bored, sick, and went crazy. So we think we want total control. And I often selfishly said, well, I wouldn't mind it for a little while, but after a while, when you get everything you want, you can't grow. You can't go anywhere with it. So when you don't get what you want, you're going to have to learn how to accept it and realize that's part of life. Thank goodness, because if you always knew the game's result before they played it, if you always knew what would happen, imagine what if you knew the exact day you were going to die? Oh, that's scary. So the ego need for control has to be taken care of. You cannot control everything and accept it. Well, another thing that can happen in the caregiving relationship, after all, as a caregiver, we are the people who, have to be the leader and everything like that. And you have to know a lot, of course, to be able to caregive for the person that you're doing that. But do you know it all? Have you ever met someone basically called the know-it-all? Hey, did you hear about, oh, I know. Well, would you? I know. And everything is, they know everything, and you run into someone that maybe you just can't tell anything because they know it all. They absolutely can't tell them a darn thing. So the more, I like to think that the more that I learn, the more I realize what I didn't know. Example in my book that I use is a saxophonist. I started off on flute, and then when I was 14, my parents gave me a tenor sax, and I didn't have any lessons. Over the summer, I kind of got out a book and looked at the fingerings, and I realized, hey, this is really similar to flute. So I learned the fingerings, got to read, and started honking on that thing. And then they needed somebody in the stage band in high school. And so in September, I started playing sax. And man, I thought I was a hot sax player at 14. I taught myself, I knew the fingerings, and whoo, man. Well, as time went on, I realized, you have a lot more to learn. And the more I went into high school, the more I learned, I really have to work on it. Then college came, oh my goodness, I wasn't as good as I thought I was back then. And so today I realize I'm nowhere near as good as that 14-year-old sax player. Although maybe my ego was kind of deluding me to think that I knew it all back then. Another example I like to think of too is the professor who went to studied Zen Buddhism. He went to an acclaimed Zen master to meet him. And so they meet, and he starts telling the Zen master all that he knows about Zen. He just goes on and on, talks and talks and talks. The Zen master is very quiet. Finally, after about 10 or 15 minutes of his blabbering, the Zen master says, would you like a cup of tea? Well, sure. Then he goes on talking. The Zen master starts pouring the cup of tea. And he keeps pouring it, and it starts overflowing. And it's spilling all over the place. And he says, stop, no more will go in. The Zen master said, neither will anything more go into your mind, because it is so full, there is no room for any new information to come in. So leave space to learn more, realize what you don't know, and always be open to learning. That to me was, I never try to stop learning, and I feel, my gosh, the longer I'm in everything, the more I realize what I have to learn to carry on. So it's a humbling experience. Well, another thing about caregiving can be, woe is me, gosh, this is hard work. I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. If we're not careful, the daily grind of caregiving can sometimes get on us and go, oh man, and you get into the sack of woes, if you will. And if you're going to throw yourself a pity party, I promise not to attend. And if you're going to hang yourself on the cross, get off of it, because someone else needs the wood, okay? So feeling sorry for yourself, what it does is it makes your energy go inward and makes you feel less and scarce. And you're telling the universe, I'm scarce, I don't have enough, I need, I want, instead of saying, I'm doing the best I can, I'm abundant, and I'm just appreciative of the situation I'm in, no matter how difficult it may be. That's a whole mindset of change, but it will help the caregiving experience if you can not. And I tell you, I have at times thought, oh gosh, I've got to do this. Oh gosh, I've got to do that. Get off of that. And I try to not stay there very long. Another thing, of course, about being a good person and a good caregiver too, is to remain humble. And I think caregivers often are some of the most humble people on the planet. But if you're not careful, and in my field, this can really be an ego trick, because after all, well, we're humble, but we want admiration too, and we want acceptance. So, oh, he's so humble. The humble caregiver, the humble author in the self-help field. I'm so humble. And so I guess if I were to step forward to accept the humility award, I would hope they would take it away from me the minute I would step forward to accept it. So be careful about being humble, because I'm more humble than you. No, I'm more humble than you. Another nice example of humility was a good friend of mine that I played with in Texas, and he unfortunately passed away. But right before he passed away, he shared with me a secret that I don't know if he told very many people. But over his life, he had given thousands of dollars to different charities anonymously. Anonymous donor. No, no brick, in the building, no honorary plaque, no thank yous, just anonymous donation. That to me was the most humble thing you can do. So be careful to not let your humility get the best of you. So we're caregiving along, and things can happen. Here comes the hurricane, here comes the storm, here comes the big wave. Adversity will happen. We know that. Be prepared in advance. But that's nothing you haven't heard before, because everybody, we want to, if you're in the Midwest, you want to be prepared for tornadoes. If you're in the south of the Gulf, you need to be ready for hurricanes. In California here, we need to be ready for wildfires and earthquakes. So physically, we are hopefully, we're hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. But that's not what I'm going to talk about right now. What I'm talking about coping when adversity strikes is to allow the time in your life for emergencies, at least 10%. And I kind of learned this the hard way. When I was in administration, I was department chair at UW-Whitewater, and then director of vision performing arts at the University of Texas, Tyler. But during those times, I would have all these things that I would need to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all right. And I would start away, and then sure enough, something would happen. An emergency, not a fire in the building or anything, but somebody needs some help. You've got to stop what you're doing, do plan B. And then I'll come back and I'll start working on my list and things I want, but then something else will happen, the phone call, all kinds of things. So I realized that I was getting interrupted all the time, which were good interruptions. I couldn't say, don't come into my office. But I realized I wasn't allowing time for the unexpected. And so I recommend to allow yourself time in your schedule for when something happens. So that way, in the beginning of the day, you always kind of think, I don't like to think this, but well, if something happens, I'm ready, but I'm also going to pare down the total number of things I need to get done just in case. And then if nothing happens, well, you've got a little extra time to do some of those things you didn't get around to. So it's being mentally prepared for the adversity. And then when it happens, you won't sink underwater. Another thing that I found works for me as a performer is that when you, and I think there probably isn't anyone hearing this that has not been in an adverse situation, or certainly who won't have it. So when it happens, I go into what we call performance mode. For example, when I played saxophone for you, I'm not thinking of much of anything other than just the tune that I'm playing. I'm not thinking about any problems I might have. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say next on the presentation. I'm going into performance mode. The show must go on. Whatever you're doing, regardless of your profession, no matter what. My mom passed away a long time ago. It was just a few hours before I had a major concert with lots of solos. So I thought, well, look, I know my mom would want me to do the concert. So I did it. And when I played the concert, I could not think specific thoughts about my mom passing. I had to put that out of my mind, not being selfish. I had to get through it. Although I had a feeling with me about my mom passing away, and I had dedicated the concert to her silently, and I got through it. So the whole idea is when things happen, you have to sometimes carry on, be the cheerful caregiver, regardless of what just happened. Now, you'll have time to grieve and and collapse and do what you need to do at the time. But there are times when we just simply have to move on and do the show and then come back to it. One of the best sayings is if you have a problem and a worry, if you can do something about it, then go do something about it right then and there. But if you can't do anything about it, put it aside until you can. And then as soon as you have a moment to take care of whatever business you need to take care of, then by all means do it. So you don't have to like the adversity, but be thankful for it. Now, this is a strange one, isn't it? What are you talking about? Thank you for the hard times. Thank you for my mom passing away. No, I don't mean it like that. But it's if you look at your life and you think, what is it that made you the person you are? Was it all the things you were given? Well, sure, you were given lots of things. But what about those tough times that you had? What about the times when this and that happened and you somehow got through it, or you wouldn't be here listening to this today? So be thankful for those tough times. So what they're not enjoyable, they're not fun, but they help us grow and they help us become the awesome caregivers that we are today. Well, I'm going to go into the last question. It's an obvious question. How much does well-being matter between caregiving and caregiving recipient? Well, that's a duh question, of course, but really I address it because it means more than even you might think. The caregiver has to be the big one. We have to be the leader in extending well-being to our loved ones. They may, and I'm very fortunate, I get feedback from my wife all the time. She's very, very loving and thankful for whatever I do for her. But not all of us get that. I realize that. And it's kind of like my teaching relationships too. So I had some teachers, some students that were very gracious and thankful, yet others, you never knew whether you reached them or not. So you be the leader in extending the well-being to your loved one and hope that it comes back. Whether it does or not, you continue extending well-being and love to the person that you're caring for. Now, here's an unusual one. The next point is have a perfect day. Well, what does that have to do with caregiving? Well, let's take a look at that. I love to have one of my exercises in the book was to imagine that you're going to have a perfect day. What would you do on your perfect day? So people can write or think what that perfect day would be. And a lot of us, throw up an example like, well, I'd like to sip margaritas on the beach in tropical paradise. Fantastic. And someone else say, well, I'm a hiker. I'd like to hike up in the Himalayas and get a good hike going and have all of that excitement. Well, great. Go have it. Well, what about day 2? More margaritas on the beach. What about day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? Wait a minute. After 7 margaritas on the beach, days I might turn into Jimmy Buffett and write songs, but I don't think I would want to do that every day. So what's my perfect day after I've had a perfect day of leisure? Well, eventually you're going to want to get off that tropical beach and maybe come back to work or do things that you think are really meaningful for the world. So that's a perfect day too. And then you're going to run into a problem and you go to work and some problem happens. Is that a perfect day? Well, I contend that it is. That everything that happens to you is perfect for your development and for your growth and your well-being. Even adversity, that's perfect. I had a professor at the University of North Texas who once told me in a psychology class that every day is a beautiful day, no matter what. Well, I tell you, it took me the whole semester to chew on that one. What do you mean? It's sleeting outside. How can that be a perfect day? It's all of life's experiences are perfect for what you're dealing with, even the hard ones. So what's a perfect day? It's the day you're having right now. Now I'm going to give you another tough one for all of us and for caregiving too. How to be impartial. What is that? That's the toughest thing in the world. And so I'm going to give you a real simple and short saying. It's from the Course in Miracles. And it is this: I judge nothing that occurs today. Nothing. I don't judge a person as bad or good. I don't judge a situation as bad or good. I simply be. I simply am. That is really tough. But if you can start doing that, you won't be riding this roller coaster of emotions, of judgment. Now, if you're in a profession and you have to judge nurses and maybe their ability to perform their task, or I'm judging musicians, and that's different because you're being paid to be critical of for their own good, and that's the whole idea. But other than that, it does no good to be judging everything all the time, including yourself. Oh man, I messed that up. Okay, you did. Let's move on. It's going to save you a lot of unhappiness when you stop judging everything, including yourself. And that's as tough as forgiveness. But I wish you good luck with that one. Caregivers are compassionate. Compassion is probably maybe caregiver and compassion go hand in hand. So I like to say 4 things about that. One is I'm compassionate by being able to place myself in someone else's shoes. That's like being the empath that we talked earlier. I am altruistic in giving without a need for kudos, paybacks, praises, affirmations. I do life's work joyfully and unconditionally and with a good sense of humor. I never laugh a lot. And last, I'm peaceful and I refrain from being hostile unless it's absolutely necessary. So the last point today in our talk is to always be grateful. Being grateful, if you take a moment at the beginning of the day, thank you. Be thankful for all of the things you're given. That will bring a better day to you. I'm thankful for all the people in my life. I'm thankful for those who are no longer with me because they were gifts in my life too. I'm thankful for having a roof over my head, the food that I'm able to get, all of the things, including the difficult situations that I've gone through. But if you are thankful, you're going to have a better day. You're thankful for the one that you're caregiving for. Imagine if you were caregiving and all of a sudden your loved one wasn't there anymore. Then would you have anything to complain about? No, you wouldn't. That's a big curveball I threw at you there. But think, the minute you start getting down about caregiving, imagine, wait a minute, I'm here for this person's life, and that is the best gift of all. So thank you. I want to say that I'm grateful for all of you to be here, and I'm going to conclude my talk for now and turn it back over to Chris.
Wow, that was spectacular. Thank you so much. This was a very introspective presentation. I took a lot of notes, John. You'll be happy to know. It was so great. We did want to open up an opportunity. If any of you in the audience had any questions or anything top of mind you wanted to share with John, feel free to just raise your hand. Let us know. You can just unmute yourself if we see anyone. Sometimes when you get an introspective talk like this, it's hard to form a question.
There you go. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Right, and that happens. It happens. And I want to give some time and space for people to think about that a little bit. And I can share a few things that came to mind for me too, that I had some questions. I loved how you started out with reflection on forgiveness. And I was curious on if you were able to do something yourself to get yourself to that point.
On forgiveness?
Yes.
it's the hardest. It's the hardest thing, and it takes years, to be honest with you. But you have to start somewhere. That's the whole thing with this exercise. Is that, you know, okay? So I started doing that. Of course, naturally, I did all the happiness steps myself, and had students do them as well in class. And but they found out, yeah, well, I've forgiven everybody. Okay, great, congratulations. And then the minute something happens that triggers an emotion from that person or situation, and your anger flares up, you realize I have more work to do. And it may take years sometimes to forgive, especially some of the really gnarly things that can happen to people. I mean, you know, I mean, not to go into it too much, but there may have been abuse. There may have been some terrible things. Could even have been a murder in the family or something. It could be something really wretched that, and how, you know, the things that are really hard to forgive. So it's easy to, you know, forgive a bad meal at a restaurant, but it's a little harder to forgive those really exceptional circumstances you went through. But it can be done, and with work it can be done. So because it's not going to do you any good to hold on to the hatred. Hatred wears you out. It depletes your energy. It does no good whatsoever. I can't think of any good it can do. And even if and then there's the revenge factor. If you get your revenge, it's still not satisfactory, because all you've done is created maybe more wrongs. So that is a tough one. I'll admit I think maybe that, and impartiality is the toughest thing. And understand that, but if you do this repeatedly, even for 5 minutes a day, just take that forgiveness, and then, you know, you're going to work on it. Then when the subject comes up in your mind again, you can gauge your emotions. You know, I'm not as mad about it as I used to be. Maybe you won't completely get over it, but now I don't want to throw my fist through the wall when I think of something. I can just go, oh yeah, that was bad, you know. Well, so it can happen. Just be patient with yourself, because it takes a long time. I'm getting there, but I don't know that I'm 100%, but certainly better than if I had never tried it and never practiced it.
Well, and your helpful hints, so to speak, on how to get yourself there. I loved when you mentioned starting your day with a good feeling, and really, you know, setting your intention with gratitude. You were talking to me, John, when you were talking about the scariest vampire in the room. Thought, yeah, that's me. You know, how many more things am I going to pile on to make my own life even more stressful than it needs to be? So I really appreciated that, and letting go of my ego, so that, you know, I could be open to new things that would come my way. You know, things don't always have to be the way I think it is.
It's almost like after I'd been in the field for a while, and toward the end of my career before I retired, was do less. And that's the complete opposite of what academia would tell you. What do you mean do less? No, you need to do this, and this. No, actually, I did less, but I did better at it, and I was happier for it, and I didn't, you know, sink underwater. You know, and maybe I didn't get all of the papers done that I wanted to do, or maybe, you know, I didn't satisfy someone else's agenda completely, but I got through it, and I did what was important. And during that time, toward the end of my last 6 years of teaching, I was also a part-time caregiver for Tony. And we had a caregiver at home, a wonderful caregiver that would do that. Of course, the whole idea is, you know, do less and do it well.
Oh, wow.
Or do less and appreciate yourself. And appreciate yourself with the goodness and the abundance there is, and the universe and the joy and everything is there. And I like the idea of the gratitude. I like the idea of the judgment. I like the idea of freeing yourself from everything. You have a lot of wonderful insights. I think it's like you're a philosopher. Are you an anthropologist? You're very good at explaining everything, and everything, it sort of was near and dear to my heart. And I learned from you, and I wanted to thank you so much, Dr. John, and I appreciated everything you did. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. And as we go about the last part of our program here is just to remind everyone that we'll have an opportunity. We are going to get this recorded and placed on the Tracy website. So if you want to look back in the upcoming week at tracyhomecare.com and look at the events category, you'll be able to see the recording of this talk, and hopefully will stimulate some additional ideas for all of you. And just to remind you that this book is available. You can receive Dr. John's book. You can get it online at drjohncweb.com, at his website, as well as on Amazon. And so we encourage you to pick it up. I know I am certainly enjoying the book myself. It's been a terrific opportunity to learn and grow from. So John, I really thank you so much for being here today and sharing this information, which has been really terrific for all of us. It's great to have an introspective talk for the day. So if there aren't any other questions, John, did you have any other parting words you wanted to share with us?
Oh, I think I've been long-winded enough. 50 minutes, on all the classes that I taught. But
Okay.
And I wanted to thank Tony for her beautiful work and say hi to her. Okay? Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All the time.
So I tell you, that's the perfect wife. I didn't even tell her to say that. I mean, that,
And that's it just came. Isn't that great?
There you go. Well, we're wishing everyone a beautiful day, and we do look forward to another event in the fall. I was very grateful that Barbara invited me to come back and to share my insights on a book that I've just recently released. It's called Living with Dementia Doesn't Mean You Stop Living. And it really is a beautiful dovetail to everything that you're speaking about, Dr. Webb, about embracing life despite the fact that you are faced with a great challenge. And so we are thankful for everyone today for being with us, and we wish you all a beautiful
there's
day.
a way to that book, by the way, her book. So it's good. There's a lot of stuff in there. So I'm learning as
Great,
well.
great. Well, have a beautiful day, everyone. I'll sign us all off.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.